In this lesson, we're going to explore more complex probabilities. We're going to do that by looking at layering different types of probabilities. What occurs when we have more than one event that we want to look at? What are the probabilities of multiple events? In this first example, we have 5 multiple choice questions, probably some kind of quiz. Each has 4 possible answers. There it is. It's on your history exam. What is the probability that if you just guess, so just randomly pick A, B, C, or D, you get only the first question correct? So this is a much more complex question than the ones we've been looking at. We only are going to get the first one correct, but that means that we're going to get the other 4 incorrect. So out of 4 possibilities, the probability of getting 1 correct is 0.25, and the probability of getting something incorrect is 0.75. So we need to multiply by that 0.75 and the 4 times we're going to get the other problems incorrect. We end up with 0.079, and our probability is so small here, about 8%, because the order mattered. It had to be specifically that first question was the only one we got right. Now, it would be the same probability if we said, oh, I'm only going to get the second question right or the third question. It's a lower probability because we're saying specifically the placement. In question B, things are a little bit different. Our probability should go up because we're going to say we're going to get 1 question correct, but we don't care which question it is. So initially we set this up exactly the same way. The 0.25 for the 1 question we get correct, the 0.75 for the 4 questions we get incorrect, raised to the 4th power. But now we don't care exactly where that 1 correct problem is. It could be the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th. So that's 5 different ways that would give us the correct probability. We now need to multiply this probability by 5 for the 5 acceptable answers. You can now see that our probability is closer to 40%, much higher than the previous question. So the probability of getting none of the questions correct, hopefully you're catching on to this. The probability of getting something incorrect would be 0.75, and this would be all 5 problems. So it's a good probability you're going to get all of them wrong, almost 25%. What's the probability of getting all the questions correct? Let's see if you can set this one up. So hopefully you set this one up as 0.25 to the 5th power, and that number is extremely small. It's less than 0.1%. So I think the moral of the story is to study for your tests and not try to just guess, especially on multiple choice exams. Okay. What's the probability of getting at least one of the questions wrong? I think we're kind of getting these down, right? But this is a little more difficult. At least one of the questions wrong. So what that means is that I could get 1 wrong, 2 wrong, 3 wrong, 4 wrong, 5 wrong, at least 1. Not getting all 5 correct. So maybe that's an easier way to think about this, is that at least one of the questions wrong is the same as not getting them all correct. So I'm going to set that up this way. The probability of getting at least wrong is equal to the complement of getting 5 out of 5 correct. So at least 1 wrong means I'm just not getting them all correct. So it's a very, very high probability that you're going to get at least one of them wrong. And then here's another one. Your first incorrect answer is on the fourth question. This is another one that's just a slightly worded differently. So it has to be that the first incorrect one you get is on the fourth question. What this means is I don't care what happens on the fifth question. I only care about what happens on the first three, the fourth one, and the fifth one. Don't care. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm just going to write this, that the first wrong is our fourth question. What this means is the first three questions have to be correct. So that's 0.25. The fourth question is incorrect, so 0.75. The fifth question, we don't care if it's right or wrong. So if it's right, it's 0.25. If it's wrong, it's 0.75. Add those together and it's 1. It doesn't matter. But I like to write it out just so that we kind of remember that we're including it. Okay, especially when we're getting started. So the fifth question, we don't care. So let's go ahead and see what that probability is. So 0.018, which is just slightly less than 2%. And that makes sense because you had to get 3 correct in a row. So that's just a different way of thinking of these probabilities. Now, the best way to teach these probabilities is like I just did, through example, because I could go through a lot of rules and a lot of formulas, but the best way for probability is really to use your logic and your mind to just set these up in the proper order rather than trying to remember abstract rules. So next, let's talk about drawing without replacement. So it says when items are being drawn from pools, we have to pay attention to whether the item gets put back into the pool. So for this example, a drawer contains 6 blue socks, 9 black socks, somebody's losing socks, and 4 brown socks. What is the probability of randomly pulling 2 black socks? Now, it doesn't say that we're going to put the socks back in the drawer, so we have to take that into account. If we add it up, we can see there's a total of 19 socks in this drawer. The probability of the first sock being black would be 9 out of that 19, but we're not going to replace that sock. So now there's only 8 socks left, black socks left, and there's only 18 total socks left. We end up with 72 out of 342 is our probability, or about 21%. I'm going to go through these next examples a little bit faster because I think you're starting to get the hang of it. I'll be asking you a few questions. So in this example, we've got 3 consecutive chips are drawn from the bag without replacement. Find the probability of each event. So we've got 6 red, 9 white, 5 blue. That's a total of 20. And we're going to look at these different events. So the first one is going to be 3 red, which gives us 6 out of 20 times 5 out of 19 times 4 out of 18, which is 120 out of 6,840, which equals 0.018. I'd like you to try 3 white on your own. Let's see what answer you can get there. I'm hoping most of you got that correct. It should be 0.074 as your final answer. 504 over 6,840 is the fraction you should have gotten. Right. For these next ones, you really have to think about what you're pulling out and what's still left in a bag. So our probability of our first chip being white the second chip being white and the third chip being blue. That first chip is going to be 9 out of 20 for the 9 white chips. If we pull one out, we'll still have 8 left in the bag, 19 total chips. But the blue chips, they're all still left in the bag. So this one would be 5, but there's only 18 chips left in the bag total. So this will give us about a 5% probability. Question D, I'd like you to try on your own. What's the probability of pulling a blue, then a red, then another blue chip? If you did this correctly, you should have ended up with 5 out of 20, then 6 out of 19, and then 4 out of 18, which gives you a probability of 0.018 or just a little less than 2%. I know this video is getting a little long, but I wanted to hit conditional probabilities before we get into the next concept of tree diagrams. So these actually do have some formulas with them. So we write the probability of B given. So whenever you see this bar, it's called given. So this is the condition we're given. And we've actually been doing these probabilities, but I just haven't formally called them conditional ones. We've looked at these before when we first did two-way tables, and I think I even did call them conditional, but we didn't give them a formal meaning. So just take a look at how this works, and I think it's pretty intuitive. If you've got the probability of B given A, the given is always in your denominator because that's what you're dividing by. So sometimes you won't be dividing by the total probability or the total number in your event. You're going to be limited to some kind of given condition. And it's just the probability of A and B happening. No, notice this is B and A. The order doesn't matter. These two are the same probability. We're just dividing by a different condition. Let's go ahead and jump into an example. If we know that a randomly selected student has pierced ears, what's the probability that the student is male? We could set this problem up with the formula. I kind of like to use my intuition a little bit better here. I'll show you what I mean by both of these. So we have the male given pierced ears. So the first thing I would have to set up here is pierced ears. So we want the and. So this would be male and pierced. So we'll say that's a P divided by the given, which is the probability of pierced ears. So if I take a look at my table here, I've got the males who have pierced ears, let's see, would be 19. And then the given would be the probability that their ears are pierced at all. So that's just a yes for pierced. So that's the probability I'm looking for. And I've got this formula, but it kind of makes sense. So we're asking for the males who have pierced ears out of everybody who has pierced ears. We end up with 0.184, but here's the thing. I can set up this fancy formula, or I could just say, hey, what is this question asking? It's asking, out of all of the students whose ears are pierced, what's the probability that they're male? Did this answer the question? And I apologize for all the gender bias in this question. I didn't write it. Sorry. All right, so next question. What's the probability that a female, this question is asking, what's the probability a female has pierced ears? Like I said, I don't necessarily like to go through and try to set up the formula. I just say, oh, okay, so we want the females. How many total females do I have? It's 88. And of those females, how many have pierced ears? That's 84. So 84 out of 88, this is a pretty high probability. So 0.955. It's up to you whether you want to use the formula approach or if you want to use just kind of your instinct and thinking it through approach. Some of you are going to find this comes pretty naturally. Some of you are going to struggle with it a bit more, and you might want to use the formula.